Elena Torres was a mother like any other, full of love and quiet determination. On the peaceful colony planet of New Eden, life had always moved slowly, gently, and predictably. Families lived in close-knit communities and children played freely under the warm sun. Elena's world was simple, focused on raising her son Leo and caring for those around her. But everything changed on a crisp morning when Leo disappeared. It began like any ordinary day. Leo, a bright and curious 10-year-old, had set out on a school field trip to the nearby space station orbiting New Eden. Elena had kissed him goodbye that morning, her heart filled with typical motherly worry, but trusting the school and the station's security. When the field trip ended, the teachers and security personnel reported that Leo was missing. At first, it was thought to be a minor glitch, a miscommunication, or even an innocent accident. But as hours turned into days, Elena's heart sank with the realization that something was very, very wrong. The colony leaders held meetings and broadcasted pleas for any information regarding the missing child, but all they received were vague technical reports and a promise that they were investigating the matter. Elena, however, knew that Leo was not a lost child. He had vanished under mysterious circumstances. Every night, she pored over news feeds and searched through government databases, but nothing pointed to a simple answer. There were hints of a strange transport signal in a sector of space far beyond the usual travel routes, a signal that seemed to have been active at the same time Leo disappeared. In hushed whispers among some of the colony residents, rumors began to circulate that the field trip might have been a cover for something else. Elena's motherly instinct told her that her son was taken intentionally and that the official story was not telling the whole truth. Against all advice to remain calm and wait for an official update, Elena made up her mind. She could not sit idly by while her son was lost somewhere in the cold, vast emptiness of space. Ignoring stern warnings from friends and even a few government officials, she resolved to take matters into her own hands. She had saved every little note Leo had scribbled in his school diary and every picture he had taken with his small camera, and she clung to them as reminders of who he was. A playful, inquisitive boy who loved stars and space. With a heavy heart but a burning determination, Elena began preparing her old, beaten-up starship, a relic from a bygone era when colonists had to fend for themselves in deep space. It wasn't the fastest ship, but it was sturdy and reliable, a ship that had once carried supplies between outposts. Now it would carry a mother on her desperate search. Elena's preparations were methodical. She gathered maps of the nearby star systems, data from old star logs, and every piece of information she could find about the mysterious signal that had been detected on the day of Leo's disappearance. The data pointed to a sector that lay on the fringes of known space, a place few dared to venture because of its reputation for dangerous cosmic phenomena and a history of unexplained incidents. The colony authorities had long avoided that area, calling it the Void, though Elena suspected that it held secrets they preferred to keep hidden. As she worked in the cramped cockpit of her ship, the hum of the engine and the blinking of old instrument panels were a constant reminder of the reality she was stepping into, a reality where she might be all alone, with only the stars to keep her company. Taking off from New Eden was not easy. The launch pad was crowded with other ships, but none were as determined as Elena. With a deep breath and a silent prayer for her missing son, she ignited the engines. The ship trembled as it lifted off, slowly ascending through the layers of New Eden's atmosphere. In the darkness of space, the planet below glowed like a jewel, a reminder of all that she had left behind and all that she hoped to save. Her course was set for the sector indicated by the strange transport signal, and she steered her ship steadily, the familiar constellations providing guidance as they had for countless travelers before her. For many days and nights, Elena navigated through the star-speckled darkness, her ship's sensors constantly scanning for any sign of the signal or any trace of her son. The journey was long and lonely. There were moments when the silence of space was overwhelming, when the vast emptiness pressed in on her from all sides. In those moments, memories of Leo's laughter and the warmth of his small hand in hers gave her strength. She recalled the times he had asked her about the stars, wondering if he could ever reach them, and now she was on a journey to find him. Every flicker on her radar set her heart pounding. Every new data point raised her hope that maybe, just maybe, she was on the right track. As she passed through a nebula of vibrant blues and purples, the sensors picked up faint signals, whispers in the void that were almost too soft to hear. Alina recalibrated the instruments and studied the patterns. There it was again, a faint, irregular pulse of energy, emanating from a region that lay beyond the main trade routes. The signal was weak, almost lost in the cosmic noise, but it was there. She set a course toward it, her determination growing with every passing moment. It was as if the stars themselves were guiding her, urging her to continue even when the journey seemed endless and fraught with danger. Along the way, Alina encountered other signs of life: abandoned space stations, derelict ships that told tales of desperate battles, and lost hope. Each relic she passed reminded her of the countless sacrifices made by those who dared to explore the far reaches of space. In the silence of the void, she felt a kinship with these forgotten travelers. They, too, had chased dreams, and sometimes they had chased nightmares. But Alina's heart was set on hope. She believed that within the mysterious signal lay a clue, a way to find Leo. The data from the signal hinted at sudden bursts of energy that could only be generated by a large mass being transported, something that could hold a living being within it. There were times when doubt crept in. The galaxy was vast, and countless dangers lurked in every corner. What if the signal was a trap? What if she was venturing into a region controlled by hostile forces? Or worse, what if the signal was simply a natural anomaly with no connection to her son at all? But then she would think of Leo's smiling face, his curious eyes, and his fearless questions about everything he saw. That thought was enough to banish the doubts and keep her course steady. In the quiet moments between navigational adjustments, Alina would record her thoughts in the ship's log. Day 17. She wrote in simple, careful script. I see a glimmer of hope in the signal. It grows stronger as we near its source. I pray it leads me to Leo. The act of writing became a lifeline, a connection to the human world she left behind, and to the son she loved more than anything. Her journey took her through asteroid belts and across vast regions of interstellar dust. There were moments when the ship's old systems creaked and groaned under the stress of long travel, and moments when she had to manually steer through dangerous fields of debris. Yet with each challenge, her resolve grew stronger. The solitude of space was filled with the memories of her life on New Eden, a life filled with love, loss, and the quiet strength of a mother's heart. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the sensors confirmed the source of the signal. Alina's ship slowed as she approached a massive ancient structure orbiting a dim, dying star. The structure was unlike anything she had seen before, a colossal space station, battered by time and space, yet still pulsing with faint energy. Its surface was covered in strange, alien symbols that glowed softly in the darkness, hinting at a long-forgotten civilization. Alina's heart pounded in her chest. Could this be where Leo had been taken? Had someone abducted him and hidden him away in this relic of a bygone era? The questions were overwhelming, but there was no turning back now. Taking a deep breath, Alina maneuvered her ship alongside the space station. The craft docked with a creak and a groan as ancient metal met ancient metal. The docking bay was dark and silent, a vast chamber that seemed to stretch on forever. With only a small flashlight and her unwavering determination, Alina stepped off her ship and into the unknown. Every step echoed in the empty corridor. Dust motes danced in the dim light, and the walls bore the scars of countless battles. The station was silent, yet it felt alive, as if the memories of its past occupants still lingered in the cold metal and forgotten corridors. Alina's senses were on high alert. She moved carefully, knowing that danger could be lurking around any corner. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the soft hum of residual power and the distant drip of water. As she ventured deeper, she found rooms filled with old data pads, screens that flickered weakly with ancient recordings, and symbols that told stories of a time long past. One display, in particular, caught her eye. It showed a map of several star systems, with one region highlighted in red. The data was fragmented, but one word was clear: transport. Alina's pulse quickened. Could this be the record of where Leo was taken? She scanned the data further, piecing together clues from the faded images and cryptic codes. The clues led her to believe that the space station was part of a larger network, a network used by unknown forces to move large masses quickly across vast distances. In that moment, hope flared within her. Leo's disappearance might have been part of something far greater than a random accident. There was a purpose here, a plan that she was only beginning to understand. In a control room at the heart of the station, Alina found a terminal still functioning on emergency power. With trembling fingers, she accessed the files, her mind racing as she searched for any mention of a transport event on the day her son vanished. The data was incomplete, corrupted by time, but it revealed a fragment of a message, a distress signal, a desperate cry for help. Among the garbled words, one name stood out: Leo. Tears sprang to her eyes as she read the message over and over, the confirmation both a blessing and a curse. Her son was here, or at least he had been taken here. The realization filled her with both hope and dread. The station seemed to pulse with a hidden energy, as if it were alive and aware of her presence. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the hall, a soft hum, then a series of beeps from the terminal. Alina's heart raced as she frantically scanned the data. The system was activating, showing a new map with several points marked across 3 star systems. Her hand shook as she realized the implications. The transport network was not just for one area. It spanned 3 star systems. The message ended with a single word: rescue. Her mind whirled. Had Leo been taken as part of an elaborate scheme, or was he a victim of a larger, more sinister plan? There was no time to ponder these questions. Determined to find her son, Alina downloaded the data and prepared to leave the station. Before she could, however, a metallic creak echoed behind her. She spun around, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, a shadow moved across the wall, a fleeting figure, half seen and gone, like a ghost in the machine. Fear and determination mingled in her heart. She knew that the station was not empty. It was filled with secrets, and perhaps with enemies. Alina pressed on, her resolve hardening with every step. The station seemed to guide her deeper, the lights flickering in patterns as if trying to communicate. Every corridor, every silent chamber held a mystery. She found rooms filled with old data logs, recordings of voices long gone, and images that hinted at a time when the station was bustling with activity. In one corner, she discovered a map of the transport network that linked the station to 3 different star systems. The map was incomplete, but it was enough to set her next course. Her ship was waiting outside, and with the precious data in hand, she would follow the trail. Every new piece of information was a step closer to Leo, and every step was fraught with danger. As she made her way back through the maze-like corridors of the station, the weight of her discovery pressed upon her. The idea that a simple field trip had led to something so vast, so intricate, was almost too much to bear. Leo's face flashed in her mind, his bright eyes, his joyful smile, and with each memory, her determination grew stronger. She was not just a mother searching for her child. She was a warrior, driven by love and the desperate need to protect what was most precious in her life. Outside the station, the cold void of space awaited. Alina climbed back into her old starship, heart pounding and mind racing. The ship's engines roared to life as she plotted a course through the transport network mapped out by the station's data. The journey ahead was uncertain and perilous. The data pointed to 3 star systems, vast regions of space that had long been avoided by most. But for Alina, there was no other choice. She had to follow the trail, no matter where it led. With a final glance back at the ancient station, she set off into the darkness, leaving behind the safety of New Eden for a voyage that would test every fiber of her being. In the silent expanse of space, Alina's ship hurtled through the stars. Every light year traveled was a reminder of the distance between her and her son, a measure of hope mixed with despair. She monitored the transport network signals, recalculating courses as new data came in. The star systems were vast and dangerous, each with its own hidden threats and secrets. But her love for Leo was greater than her fear of the unknown. The ship's navigation system struggled with old data and outdated maps, yet Alina relied on her intuition and the faint, persistent signal that led her deeper into a region of space that was rumored to be fraught with peril. Time blurred as she traveled from one system to the next. There were moments of calm, where the stars shone bright and the silence of space was almost comforting, and moments of terror, where unknown forces lurked in the darkness and the possibility of enemy patrols or cosmic hazards kept her on constant alert. Each system she entered was like a new chapter in an unwritten book, a story of survival, loss, and the unyielding hope of a mother's love. Alina recalled every warning from the old records, every cautionary tale told by those who had dared to explore these regions before her. But her heart would not let her turn back. With each passing system, the transport signal grew stronger, more consistent. It was as if the network itself was calling out to her, urging her onward. And as she followed the trail, fragments of data began to form a picture that suggested that Leo was not merely a victim of random abduction, but part of a larger plan. His disappearance was linked to the transport network, a network that had moved more than just cargo or supplies. It had moved people, and in that dark corner of the galaxy, it had moved something very important. Alina's ship shook as it entered the gravitational pull of an unknown planet in one of the star systems. The planet was dark and stormy, with swirling clouds that blotted out the light of its distant sun. It was a world that bore the scars of ancient battles. Craters pocked its surface, and remnants of lost civilizations lay hidden beneath the shifting sands. The transport signal indicated that something vital was on this planet, something connected to the data she had retrieved from the station. Heart pounding, Alina adjusted the ship's course and prepared for descent. Every instinct told her that this planet was dangerous, that it held secrets and traps set long ago. But the thought of Leo gave her strength, and she steeled herself for what lay ahead. The ship landed roughly on a barren plain near the edge of a vast canyon. Alina stepped out into a world of shadows and echoes. The air was cold, and the ground beneath her boots was rough and uneven. In the distance, she saw the glimmer of a structure, ruins of an ancient outpost or maybe a forgotten base. The transport signal was strongest there, pulsing like a heartbeat in the silence. Alina knew that her journey was far from over. It was only beginning. Each step she took was a step into the unknown, a step toward finding Leo and unraveling the mysteries of the transport network. She walked slowly, every sense on high alert. The barren landscape was eerie and silent, and the only sound was the wind whispering through the crevices of the canyon walls. Alina's mind raced as she tried to piece together the clues from the station's data. The map showed 3 star systems linked by the transport network, and here, on this desolate planet, was just one piece of the puzzle. What had the network been used for? Who controlled it? And why had Leo been taken? As she approached the ruins, she discovered remnants of a once thriving facility. There were broken consoles, shattered screens, and stacks of old datapads covered in dust. With cautious determination, she began sifting through the debris, searching for any clue that might lead her to her son. Amid the rubble, she found a terminal that flickered to life as if awakened by her touch. Its screen displayed partial records of a transport event, a record of a cargo that moved through the network, marked with the name Leo Torres. Alina's heart stopped for a moment. Tears blurred her vision as she read the data. It was confirmation that her son was caught in this web of secrets. But it also raised more questions. Who had taken him? And for what purpose? The terminal's data was fragmented, but it hinted at a larger conspiracy, one that spanned 3 star systems and involved powerful forces that had long been hidden from public view. The realization filled Elena with both dread and determination. This was not a random kidnapping. Leo's disappearance was part of something far greater, a plan that could alter the balance of power in the galaxy. The weight of this knowledge pressed down on her, but it also gave her the resolve to press on. She gathered the data, transferring it to her ship's main computer, and set her course for the next star system. Every step of the way, every dangerous descent into unknown worlds, was driven by a single unyielding thought: to save her son and uncover the truth behind the mysterious transport network. In the vast silence of space, as her ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, Elena took one last look at the planet. The dark, stormy world faded into the distance, but the data it held burned in her mind like a beacon. She knew that her journey would be long, fraught with danger, and filled with challenges that could break even the strongest spirit. Yet she pressed on, driven by the love of a mother and the unwavering hope that somewhere out there, Leo was waiting to be found. And so, in the endless void of space, Elena Torres became more than just a grieving mother. She became a warrior on a quest to reclaim what was taken, to challenge the darkness of the galaxy, and to prove that even in the face of unimaginable loss, a mother's love could light the way through the deepest night. Her ship sped into the inky blackness, leaving behind a trail of hope and determination. Every star that flickered in the distance was a promise of a new beginning, every planet a chapter waiting to be written. Elena's eyes burned with resolve as she set her course for the unknown, knowing that the road ahead was perilous, but also knowing that nothing could stop her when her heart was set on saving her child. And thus began the next chapter of her journey, a journey that would take her through 3 star systems, where she would face unimaginable challenges, encounter strange allies and ruthless enemies, and ultimately discover the hidden truth behind the network that had taken her son. The galaxy was vast, and its secrets were many, but Elena Torres was ready to confront them all, one determined step at a time. Lena floated through the dark hallway of the alien ship, her heart pounding faster than ever. The silence around her felt heavy. Every step she took echoed against the strange metal floor. Her hand stayed close to her body, holding the small plasma cutter she had found earlier. It wasn't a big weapon, but it made her feel a little safer. She didn't know where she was exactly, but she knew her son had been here. She could feel it. A mother always knows. She turned a corner and found a broken console on the wall. The screen blinked weakly, showing symbols she didn't understand. But when she pressed one, the screen changed to a map. It showed the current section of the ship and 3 red dots. One of them was nearby. Lena guessed it might be another person, or maybe something worse. She followed the path toward the nearest red dot, hoping it was Max. As she got closer, she heard something. It was a strange sound, like breathing mixed with metal grinding. Her body froze. She leaned slowly around the corner and saw something that didn't look like any alien she'd seen in pictures. It had long arms, sharp legs, and glowing blue eyes. It was tearing open a storage box with claws that looked like they could cut steel. Lena held her breath and stayed hidden. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't friendly. She backed away quietly, trying not to make a sound. She needed to find another path to the second red dot. It was further away, but maybe it was Max. She ran through side corridors, climbed broken stairs, and even crawled through a vent filled with strange slime. She didn't care. Nothing mattered but finding her boy. After an hour of searching, she entered a large room. It was full of empty cages. Some still had strange hair and scales inside. She shivered. Were these used to keep prisoners? She walked past them slowly, feeling her stomach twist. Then, in the far corner of the room, she saw it, something small. She rushed forward and gasped. It was Max's shoe. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. It had a burn on the side and dirt on the sole, but it was definitely his. He had been here. She looked around the room again. That meant they'd taken him deeper into the ship. She was getting close. Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away and whispered to herself, "I'm coming, Max. Just hang on." As she continued deeper into the ship, the structure began to change. The walls became smoother, darker, and almost alive. Strange lights moved like liquid under the surface. The air felt thick. Lena held her breath and kept going. She passed more control rooms, strange machines, and even rooms where gravity didn't work right. She floated for minutes in one room before grabbing onto a railing and pulling herself out. Everything here was wrong. Alien. Dangerous. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Finally, she entered a room that was different. It looked like a prison. The walls were lined with energy fields, and inside them were beings from different species. Some were tall with many arms, others had tails or wings. And in the last cell was Max. He was sitting on the floor, hugging his knees, eyes wide with fear. Lena ran to the cell and shouted his name. Max. He looked up, confused, and then his face lit up. "Mom," he shouted. Lena tried to break the energy field but couldn't. It sapped her hand when she touched it. Max told her there was a control panel nearby, but it was guarded by one of the large aliens. She turned to see it. It was standing in the shadows, holding a staff that glowed with strange fire. She didn't know how she would fight it, but she had no choice. She whispered to Max, "Stay strong." Then she moved quietly around the side of the room, hiding behind crates. She saw the control panel and the guard standing near it. She picked up a loose piece of metal and threw it far across the room. The sound made the guard turn. While it was distracted, Lena ran toward the control panel and slammed her hand on every button she could see. The cells began to flicker. Some opened. Bean stepped out, confused and scared. The guard turned and roared, rushing toward her, but one of the newly freed prisoners jumped in front of it, tackling it to the ground. Lena ran to Max's cell just as the field dropped. She grabbed him, holding him tightly. He was crying now, but he was safe. The other prisoners began to escape too, some helping others, some running alone. The chaos helped Lena and Max slip away. They ran through the ship, avoiding fights and hiding when they had to. Lena found an escape pod and pushed Max inside. She followed, closed the door, and hit the launch button. The pod shook violently, then shot into space. Through the small window, she watched the alien ship get smaller and smaller. For a moment, Lena thought they were safe, but then the pod's screen showed a warning. 3 large alien ships were approaching fast. They had followed the escape pod. Lena held Max close, her heart racing again. This wasn't over. Not yet. But then something strange happened. A deep voice came through the pod speaker. It was speaking in English. "Human vessel, you have freed the prisoners of the Khar Dominion. We owe you a great debt. Identify yourself." Lena looked at Max, confused. She answered slowly, "My name is Lena. I'm just a mom looking for her son." The voice paused. Then it said, "You are no longer just a mother. You are a liberator. You have started something bigger than you can imagine. Follow us. There is much more to come." Lena stared at the speaker, unsure of what to say. She had come to space to find her child. Now she was being called a liberator by aliens. Her journey was far from over. And she didn't know what would come next. But she knew one thing. She would never stop protecting her son. Lena sat in the small seat of the escape pod, holding Max tightly. The pod was quiet except for the soft hum of the engine and the steady blinking of warning lights. Outside the window, stars passed like slow-moving lights, and behind them, the large alien ships still followed. But they didn't attack. That voice had called her a liberator. It said they owed her a debt. Lena didn't understand. She was just a mother. She wasn't a hero or a soldier. She hadn't come here to free prisoners. She came only for Max. And yet now things were changing fast, too fast. She watched Max as he slowly fell asleep in her arms. His small hands were bruised, his face pale, but he was safe. That's all that mattered. For now. The escape pod screen flashed again, showing a large space station up ahead. It wasn't like anything Lena had seen in human pictures or videos. The station looked alive, made of crystal and metal, like it was grown instead of built. Strange colors pulsed across its surface. One of the alien ships moved ahead and sent a signal. The station opened slowly, like a flower blooming in space. The escape pod was pulled inside. As the doors closed behind them, Lena felt a sudden silence, like the space around her had stopped moving. Then the pod door opened with a soft hiss. Lena stepped out, still holding Max's hand. Dozens of beings stood before her, tall and strange, with different colors, shapes, and eyes. None of them looked human, but none of them attacked. Instead, they bowed. One stepped forward, taller than the others. Its body was thin, like branches, and it had glowing green eyes. It spoke again, the same voice from the pod. "You are Lena of Earth, the one who broke the chains. You released the prisoners. You faced the XR guards alone. You risked everything for your child. You are now part of something greater." Lena looked at the being with confusion. "I don't understand. I just wanted my son." The being nodded. "And that made you powerful. Braver than 1,000 soldiers. The Xar Dominion has ruled with fear for many years. You were the first to fight them from inside. And now, others are rising." Lena didn't know what to say. Max looked up at her, whispering, "Are they good guys, Mom?" She didn't answer right away. She didn't trust easily now. But the aliens hadn't hurt them. They had helped. And they seemed to be waiting for her, listening to her. That was strange. The leader offered her something. It looked like a wristband, made of smooth silver with blinking lights. "Wear this. It will let you speak to all of us. It will also protect you." Lena took it slowly and placed it on her wrist. It felt warm, like it was alive. She could suddenly understand more clearly. The other beings' voices became clearer, no longer strange or broken. They led Lena and Max through the station. It was filled with technology far beyond anything Earth had. Walls shifted to form paths, lights followed their steps, and soft music played from nowhere. They were taken to a resting chamber where Max could eat and sleep. Lena sat alone in the corner, trying to understand everything. Later, the leader returned. He showed her a map of star systems. That Xar Dominion controls 3 of these systems, but now they are unstable. The prisoners you freed were rebels, leaders, scientists. With your help, they escaped. With your help, we can fight back." Lena shook her head. "I'm not a soldier." "No," the leader said, "but you are something more dangerous. You are a mother who doesn't give up. That scares them." That night, the aliens shared news. Word had spread across the systems. A human, an Earth mother, had broken into a Dominion ship, freed rebels, and escaped. Many began to resist. More ships fell. One station declared independence. The name Lena was whispered on different planets, not as a legend, but as hope. The leader asked her to speak to the rebels, to give them courage. Lena didn't feel ready, but when she saw Max sleeping peacefully, she knew she had to. She stood before a crowd of beings, some tall, some small, some strange, and spoke from her heart. She told them she didn't mean to start a fight, that she only wanted her son. But now she saw how deep the evil of the Dominion ran. She said no one should be afraid to protect the people they love, and she would stand with them if they fought for that. The crowd cheered, and something changed. Lena was no longer just a visitor. She was a leader now, not because she wanted power, but because she inspired it. The aliens gave her a ship, not a warship, but a command vessel. It was huge, smooth, and fast. It responded to her thoughts thanks to the wristband. They called it the Mother Flame. It became a symbol of rebellion. Lena didn't plan to lead, but she couldn't back down either. Max needed a safer galaxy, Others needed freedom. If she had to fight to build that world, she would. The first target was a Dominion supply base. If they could take it, other systems might rise too. Lena stood on the bridge of the Mother Flame, staring at the stars ahead. Her voice was calm but strong when she spoke. Let's go. For our kids. For all of them. And so, the battle began. Not for revenge, but for something stronger. For the future. The Mother Flame moved silently through the stars, its surface glowing like fire trapped under glass. Inside the ship, Lena stood on the command bridge, looking at the stars ahead. She wasn't a captain by training. She had never flown a ship before this journey. But something had changed in her ever since she stepped onto that alien prison ship. She had found a strength she didn't know was inside her. And now, people from 3 star systems were looking to her, not just as a mother, but as a leader. Her ship was no longer just a symbol. It was the heart of a growing rebellion. The alien leader from the station, called Kareth, stood beside her. He had become her advisor, her translator, and sometimes her friend. He had served in secret against the Dominion for years, but said he never had the courage to stand openly, until he saw what Lena did. Our first strike must be strong, he said. If we take the supply station, we cut their reach. But more than that, it will send a message that even a mother can burn down their walls. Lena nodded slowly. I'm not doing this for revenge, she said. I'm doing this for Max. For kids like him. For the people who just want to live. Her voice was soft, but her words were filled with fire. She wasn't a soldier, but she understood now what war meant when it came to protecting the innocent. The plan was simple. 3 rebel ships would create a distraction on the outer edge of the system, while the Dominion forces moved to stop them. The Mother Flame would jump close to the station, drop a boarding team, and take control from inside. Lena didn't like the danger it put others in, but they all agreed this was the best chance. And Lena had a feeling in her chest, like something heavy, that told her this was only the beginning. When the moment came, the stars outside the window shifted, and they dropped out of faster than light. The Dominion supply station floated ahead, large, round, and heavily guarded. It was protected by several smaller ships and a long ring of defense weapons. But Kareth's plan worked. The rebels created just enough chaos on the far side of the system to draw the defenders away. Lena watched from her seat as the Mother Flame darted through the broken formation, fast like a spark of fire. The boarding crew, made of rebels and ex-prisoners, moved fast. Lena stayed in contact through her wristband, guiding them as best she could. Max sat safely in the medical bay with a soft alien nurse watching over him. Even though she had to focus on the mission, Lena's thoughts never left her son. She needed this to work. For him. Then the alarm sounded. The station fired on them, and the ship shook. Shields held, but barely. Kareth shouted something in his language, then turned to Lena. They found us. We must act now. Lena gave the command. Board them. No more running. The rebels used energy cutters to break into the station's side. The fighting inside was fast and brutal. Dominion soldiers were trained and armed, but the rebels had something more dangerous. They were free now, and they fought like people who had lost everything and were ready to win it back. Lena watched the battle through the screen. Then something changed. The station's signal dropped. The inside lights turned red. One of the rebels sent a message. We have the control room. It's ours. The crew on the bridge cheered, but Lena didn't. She knew this was only a small victory. The real test would come soon. Dominion reinforcements would arrive. And this time, they wouldn't be distracted. They would come in full force to crush the rebellion. Sure enough, moments later, Kareth's warning came true. 6 Dominion warships jumped into the system. They blocked every escape path. The rebel ships were far away, and the Mother Flame was too big to run without being hit. They were trapped. Lena stood up. Open a channel to all ships, she said. The crew did as she asked. When the screen came on, Dominion commanders appeared. Cold eyes, sharp voices. One of them, a tall being with dark armor, stared at her. "You are the human. The mistake. The problem. You will surrender now, or we destroy your ship." Lena didn't blink. She stepped forward and spoke calmly. "You took my son. You made me break into a prison. You made me run. You made me fight. And now you want me to kneel." She leaned closer to the camera. "I'm done running. You should be afraid." The Dominion laughed. Then they started firing. Kareth looked at her. "We can't hold them." But Lena had already moved to the console. "No, we're not fighting them alone." She pressed the signal that Kareth had shown her, a call to every rebel in the nearby systems. A signal of fire, a signal of hope. Then something amazing happened. The stars behind them blinked, and ship after ship dropped from faster than light. Hundreds. Not big warships, but fast, sharp, and angry. Rebels from all over had answered the call. The mother flame had become a flame in truth, and now the whole galaxy saw it. The battle was terrible. Ships burst like firecrackers in space. The Dominion fought hard, but the rebels fought harder. Lena didn't give commands like a general. She gave them like a parent defending her family. And in the end, it was enough. The Dominion ships broke formation and ran. The station was theirs. The system was free. Lena collapsed into her seat, breathing hard. Kareth smiled. "You did it." She shook her head. "We did it. All of us." But deep down, she knew something darker. The Dominion would not let this go. This was just the beginning of something bigger, something that would spread. Lena hadn't just rescued her child now. She had become the spark of a galaxy-wide fire. And she wasn't turning back. The stars were quiet again, but the silence was only on the surface. Underneath, something had changed. The victory at the supply station had spread across the galaxy like a storm. Systems that had once bowed to the Dominion now whispered about rebellion. Planets that had been too afraid to fight now raised their flags. And at the center of it all stood Lena, the woman who had just wanted to find her son, but had ended up changing everything. Max was safe now. He played in the quiet garden room inside the mother flame. Alien flowers glowed softly in the corners, and soft music filled the air. Lena sat nearby, watching him with tired eyes. Her arms were still sore from the last mission, and her mind had not rested in days. But when she looked at Max, she felt her strength return. She had done this for him. She would keep going for him. He was her light, her reason. Kareth came into the room, holding a small device in his hand. "We have a situation," he said quietly. "The Dominion is moving again. 3 fleets. They're heading straight for the outer rim colonies. They want to take back control before your movement grows any stronger." Lena stood up slowly. She didn't wear armor like a soldier. She didn't carry a weapon. But when she looked at Kareth, she looked like a leader. "How many of our people can respond?" she asked. "Enough to hold the lines," Kareth replied. "But only if you lead them." Lena nodded. She kissed Max's head gently. "I'll be back soon," she whispered. When Lena stepped back onto the bridge of the mother flame, the crew stood and saluted her. They didn't do that before. Now they did it not because they had to, but because they believed in her. She nodded once and walked to the center. "Set course to the outer rim," she said. "Let's show them what a mother can do." The journey was short. When they arrived, they found a battle already in progress. Dominion ships lit the sky with fire. Small colonies tried to fight back, but they were outmatched. Then the rebel fleet arrived. Dozens of ships followed the mother flame. Farmers, miners, former slaves, ex-soldiers. They had nothing in common except one thing. They were tired of being crushed. The Dominion leader sent a message. It was the same tall creature who had spoken to Lena before. "You're no queen," he said. "You're no general. You're just a woman who doesn't know her place." Lena looked at him through the screen. "You're right," she said. "I don't know my place anymore. but I know it's not under your boot. The battle that followed shook the stars. The Dominion came in waves, but Lena's fleet held strong. She didn't give commands like a tactician. She gave them like a parent fighting for a future. Her voice was calm. Even when the ship shook, her orders were clear. Protect the colonies. Shield the weak. Push forward only when it saved lives. Her courage spread like wildfire. Even those who had once doubted her now fought harder. Ships that had no reason to win somehow survived. People who had lost all hope now shouted her name over the comms. At the peak of the fight, when the Dominion flagship turned its cannons toward one of the colony domes, Lena made the call. She ordered the mother flame to move in the way. The blast hit the side of the ship, and lights exploded across the walls. But the dome survived. Children inside that colony lived because Lena made that choice. When the Dominion ship tried to retreat, Lena didn't chase it. She let it run, knowing the message had been sent. The fight ended hours later. The Dominion forces were pushed back for the first time in years. The colonies were free, and in every corner of the galaxy, new uprisings began. The rebellion had no flag, no capital, but it had a symbol. A mother who had come looking for her son and found an empire broken. Later, on the surface of a small planet, Lena stood with Max beside her. The people had made a statue, not of a warrior, but of a mother holding her child with stars in her eyes. Lena didn't speak at the ceremony. She just stood quietly, holding Max's hand. The war wasn't over. There would be more battles, more pain. But now she wasn't alone. Kareth came to her side and said, "You've done more than find your son. You've given the galaxy something it forgot. Hope." Lena smiled. "I didn't mean to start a war," she said. "I just wanted my son back." Kareth laughed softly. Sometimes that's how legends are born. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the Dominion gathered again. Angry, afraid, planning their next move. But now, they knew one thing for sure. They hadn't just made an enemy. They had awakened a mother. And the galaxy would never be the same.